Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dalarin and today I'm turning 24. So I'm going to be spending a lot of time away from my computer, but because I won't be at my computer, I still need the YouTube revenue, which is super low, to keep flowing. I need the cash flow running. So I'm going to make another clickbait video on the channel. Hope you enjoy. We're going to talk about the 5 things that I honestly miss out of Rogues, with the possibility of the next expansion being revealed at BlizzCon. Well, not the possibility, it's like really high chances that something is going to be revealed, something awesome. I want to talk about some things that I loved about Rogues, whether it's abilities or simply concepts that I loved in the past. Maybe you guys will agree with some of these. Hopefully we'll see some of these things come back or make some sort of a return within the next expansion, especially for PvP. Like, I feel like they're really need to put some work into PvP. They did the whole, oh, we're gonna add honor talents and we're gonna try to make the game balanced, but they really sucked a lot of the fun out of the game. Add some complexity, Blizzard. Anyway, let's talk about these things. The first thing I miss out of World of Warcraft, and was there for really one expansion during Warlords Genre, was Shadow Reflection. Shadow Reflection, I feel like on its own is a unique ability. It basically places a phantasm in the battlefield, a lot like a Scythe, but it's not quite as easy to kill. That basically watches what you do and it'll mimic your abilities. For somebody who was an Assassination Rogue or a Combat Rogue back in the day, you could use it in a awesome stun lock combo. Subtlety Rogues on their own had a really unique stun lock combo of their own without any need for any of the talents, but for Combat Rogues and Assassination Rogues to be able to use your reflection with all the different cooldowns and the CC that it provides or can provide and all the different damage that it can put up, it was very unique and interesting concept. They brought back Shadow Reflection, or some sort of a Shadow Reflection-like ability, into Shadowy Duel in Legion, but instead of having a reflection spawn with you, you basically take you and the enemy out into a Shadowy Duel. It costs too much energy, has too long of a cooldown, doesn't last nearly as long, and it's just not that good of an ability now. But back in the day, I remember, it was a lot of fun playing a Combat Rogue, because you could have this crazy stun lock rotation with all of your bursts for an opener, and if enemies trinketed, well, they were on the back hand, so they had to sit through the whole opener. It was really cool, and I thought it was a very interesting design choice for the game, as it allowed Assassination and Combat Rogues at the time to do something that only Subtlety Rogues were able to be good at, which was stun locks, and I felt like it was an interesting ability even in PvE, because not only do you get a clone that follows you, so you can make all the Naruto Shadow Clone Jutsu jokes all day long, but also it's just a very interesting mechanic that we've never seen in the past. For Rogues to have a pet-like mechanic to be present in the game was really just out of the blue and out of this world. So I thought it was really awesome, really unique, and very fun to play with for the longest time. Now, the second thing I miss for all 3 specs of Rogue in this case is the capability to have Cheap Shot, Garrote, Gouge, Disarm for every single specialization. I know that in Legion they decided to specialize more specs, but in some cases this meant that you have to take some core utilities out of what makes a rogue and add only certain parts to this spec, certain parts to this spec, certain parts to another spec. So you basically took what Rogues were all about with all the different utilities they had, and you split it up evenly amongst all the specs. To try to make Outlaw Rogues seem more unique, you gave them a Gouge, Disarm, and a Tricks of Trade capability mechanic. To make Assassination more interesting for other players, to maybe give an option as, hey, maybe you should play some Assass, they gave him Garrote and a lot of poison damage. They took away all the poisons from every other spec. To make Subtlety a more appealing spec, they had to go through a lot of changes, but those guys don't have a Gouge, they don't have a Disarm, they don't have a Garrote, but they have a lot of stuns and access to as many stuns as they want. I feel like in the long run, a lot of people accepted how Rogues became, and I feel like Blizzard came up with I guess, an acceptable version for PvP or PvE of all the specs, but they're definitely not what they used to be back in the day. I honestly like the fact that a Rogue was a Rogue first, and then the flavor of what you played came in second. Whether you were a Combat Rogue with a build up and a killing spree and massive 8-second stun, or I guess right now you would be an Outlaw Rogue with the RNG mechanic and a lot of utilities for your team. I feel like it'd be cool if they were to somehow incorporate that and add that back into the game or over anything else, to give a lot of classes back some of the core concepts they had, because I thought that that made the game a lot more exciting, a lot more fun, and you don't really realize these kind of things until it's gone. So once Legion came out and we lost all these cool things, that's where it's like, oh man, I really wish I had some of that back, you know? Now, the third thing that I want to talk about is Glyphs and set bonuses. I'm going to tie them both together. Glyphs and set bonuses basically do the same job, or did, as the honor talents. The honor talents were designed to give you a feeling of options in terms of how you want to structure yourself for PvP. In most cases, you get 3 different options for about 6 different rows. I'm just going off the top of my head, but in most cases, that's not how things work out. If you're lucky to have 3 different options to pick from for most PvP situations, or at least some, good for you, but most classes don't even get 3 options. I'm playing an Outlaw Rogue, and in most cases, literally just in about every single cookie cutter case, I get 1 option a row. That's it. It doesn't matter whether I'm versing against melee, it doesn't matter if I'm versing against haste. I can try to do something gimmicky, something crazy with some of the builds that I guess technically can run, but in most cases, it is simply just not profitable for me. In most cases, I just have one specific build that will run no matter situation, and since Blizzard doesn't go back to adjust honor talents to add in for them when like certain classes and certain specializations needed, there's not a lot you can really do about it. What I liked about Glyphs and set bonuses is they were more specialized and personalized for each spec, and for the most part I'll be talking about Warlord's General. Now, it's a little bit biased for me to say that one of them is better than the other of these 2 systems that we had from back in the day compared to now, because they essentially do the same thing. But what I liked in Warlords is how specialized they were. Glyphs were designed specialized for every single spec, and a lot of considerations came in. For example, Subtlety was the strongest specialization, or the seen strongest specialization for PvP, because of the fact that it had a Vanish and a Shadow Dance, so you have more access to stealth-based abilities. So to even the battlefield, for Assass and combat, they designed a glyph that allowed him to use Vanish on a 1-minute cooldown, but it wouldn't automatically put him into stealth and wouldn't take him out of combat. They just gave him a little bit of a competitive edge for PvP and a viability overall. And then there was set bonuses that were specifically designed for PvP. Oh, combat rogues and assassination rogues are not really all that strong. Well, let's allow them a more offensive play. A lot of them have the glyph where they have 1-minute vanish, but what if we made it so that for the 4-piece bonus, if you vanish, you get full combo points and 100% crit. Of course, I had to nerf it for assassination after a while because it was a little bit strong, but for combat rogue, there was such a unique mechanic. You can now use Vanish offensively rather than defensively in changing gameplay. And of course, I would say something different if for honor talents to start considering, you know, the different talents that people don't run, the useless talents that are just simply bad for PvP, that don't actually bring anything to the table, and if they were to cycle them out, then I would say, Blizzard, you're doing a good job. But for me, I felt that Glyph system and the set bonus system simply just worked a little bit better, as it was more personalized to the specializations that we all played for PvP. The 4th thing that I miss about Rogues is Smoke Bomb. I mean, right now you technically can use Smoke Bomb, but you have to be in spec of Subtlety, and it's only a PvP talent. But what happened to the idea that a rogue who made poisons, literally just crafted poisons from back in the day, throws dust in people's faces? How far-fetched is it for a rogue to use a bomb that shoots smoke? How far-fetched is it for an Outlaw Rogue who's all piratey to have a cannonball full of smoke and you drop it on the ground, poof, smoke flying? For a Subtlety Rogue who has this ninja-esque, I guess, stylization sorta in Legion, very believable. What about Assassination Rogue who has a poison bomb that they break on a rupture or an eviscerate for a chance, depending on common points thanks to your artifact traits? I mean, it's a possibility that you have a poison bomb, but what about Smoke Bomb? I thought it was a really cool ability for rogues. It almost made me think of like an old school cartoon, right? So when you have cartoons just getting a fight together, there's just a lot of smoke that gets kicked up, and you see just fists and punches and kicks and faces just poking out of it from time to time, and in the end, when the smoke clears, you have one guy on the ground, the other guy standing there victorious, literally standing there like goddamn Popeye with his big old tumor fists up in the air. You know what I mean? Like, that was so cool back in the day. When I first started getting into rogues back in Mists of Pandaria, I thought it was a very cool idea, very cool concept, and I just like the idea of like you're just having this little tussle with the enemy, and then after a while smoke clears, one of you is the victor and the other of you is on the ground just bleeding out or calling for help or whatever. I thought it was absolutely awesome back in the day. So I don't really know why they won't bring it back. Also allowed Smoke Bomb to be somewhat of utility that you could actually bring into a raid. Now, rogues weren't all that great in terms of PvE, and for the most part they don't really bring too much utility, depending on spec, of course. Now, the spec of choice we're talking about are, we're talking about Subtlety, who brings in damage. Assassin who brings in damage, or Outlaw who brings some more damage. They have Cloak of Shadows, they have Feign, they have Cheat Death, they have Vanish, so they have ways of surviving certain mechanics that would otherwise kill them, or just simply surviving mechanics that would otherwise not allow them to do what they do best, which is deal massive DPS. So that was the big benefit of Rogues, and that's currently what the big benefit of Rogues right now. But right now you just don't really have anything exciting that you bring. But back in the day, at least you brought Smoke Bomb, which had a 10% damage reduction that you could bring to your team. Let's say you're doing a mythic fight or rogue fight, is everybody's taking a bit so much damage, and you drop in that Smoke Bomb for that 10% damage reduction. It's not a lot, but at least you bring something to the team. Or you simply would drop Smoke Bomb on a tank who has a boss that keeps casting spells at him. So instead of going up to interrupt the boss, you would drop Smoke Bomb, the boss will keep casting spell, he will realize that the tank is out of line of sight, start walking to the tank. It was a little bit that you brought to the game, I guess, in terms of PvE, in order to feel like you're benefiting the team goal and the team aspect. So I thought that was so cool back in the day. I wish Smoke Bomb makes a comeback in the future, but that was just one of the most iconic and coolest abilities that the Rogues have had. One of the reasons why I play Subtlety for PvP to this day. The last thing I miss is just the aspect of skill that it took to play a Rogue. Now, I won't say that I'm the greatest player ever. In most cases, I describe myself as a halfway decent player. I'm not that great of a player, but when somebody spends a lot of time playing a Rogue, back in the day, that used to just show. It was literally blood, sweat, and tears that ran through you, and everybody could see just how much effort you put into Rogue. Energy management, combo point management, resource management in general, cooldown management, like really meticulous stuff. That's what I'm talking about. I mean, I guess right now you can play an Outlaw Rogue or Assassination Rogue or a Subtlety Rogue, and you can think about, okay, I don't have a lot of energy, I guess I'll just stop spamming abilities and I'll just pull energy for a little bit, right? Well, I'm talking about the meticulous stuff, the stuff that they took out in Legion. I loved all of that because there's so many players who just would have questions of, oh, how do I do this, how do I do that, I feel like I don't have enough energy, I don't feel like I don't have this, I don't have that. There were players that simply played the game and understood it, and there were players that played the game and just couldn't quite wrap their heads around their head. I'm okay with them trying to make the game a little bit easier to understand if it's some crazy difficult concept. But I felt like the whole idea of like the micromanagement that Rogues have had for the longest time, I felt like it wasn't a crazy far-fetched idea, honestly. For the longest time for me, I just thought it was just something cool. It was like a trial, it was like a passage of, you know, manhood or whatever. I don't know, it was just a mindset that a lot of people got into, and it was one of those things that was so difficult to describe. Basically, Rogues were Rick and Morty viewers. If you have high enough EQ, then you actually understand it, and only Rick and Morty viewers can understand such high complexity or stuff like that. And I say that as loosely as possible, but it really did have a feeling of something. Put these players that play Rogues apart from other players. There's a reason why people would call hunters, you know, huntards, or warriors were seen as like, you know, oh, herder, I'm a warrior. It was something really cool, unique. It's almost like you finally cure cancer or something when you play a Rogue. It was really cool and awesome once you felt like you achieved it, even to a certain degree, even to a certain sense. You might have not understood the spec perfectly, but when you felt like you achieved it to a certain degree, and you felt like you understood the basics, you felt like you could finally get a grasp on things, just that process where you're starting to understand and grasp it little by little, that's what I miss out of Rogue. And I feel like in Legion it has its own ways, but I felt like in the other expansions it was a lot more apparent. And the difference between like a really good Rogue that really got it compared to a Rogue that plays casually and doesn't really get it but still can blow everybody up on the battlefield in BG, it was a lot harder to achieve back in the day compared to this in Legion, which isn't a bad thing, but I do miss that like big separating point of what I remember of Rogues. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching this video to the end, and if you're watching this to the end, I am doing a birthday stream on October 9th. As long as it's October 9th, then it's a birthday stream. A normal stream from 5 till 7 EST. I don't know what time it is for US or EU, but I might start maybe a little bit earlier and I might end a little bit later. I'm not quite sure. So if you're watching this video right now, this is probably going to be the only video I'll put out for the day just because I want to hang out and enjoy my birthday. As I'm recording this right now, I'm honestly falling asleep because I had some NyQuil just so I can get a good night's sleep and then wake up tomorrow and feel really refreshed after being sick for however many days it's been now. But if you're gonna catch the stream, maybe 5 to 7, a little bit early, a little bit later. Probably will have it somewhere in Discord or Twitter. Following those, of course, helps. And I'll be streaming here on YouTube. So if you want to hit the notification bell next to the subscribe button. So if you go down to where the subscribe button is, there should be a bell nearby. That will inform you as soon as I start streaming. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Let me know your favorite thing that you miss out of Rogues, and maybe something you hope might come back, or just simply something that you loved during one of the expansion or the other, whether you want it to come back or whether you just simply have good memories with it from back in the day. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.